Well, we're back again with another no fluff analysis, and this time I'll be going over the Fractured Futures Summon Showcase running from the 4th to the 18th of October UTC. This is going to be a slightly longer video since I didn't go over the stuff added with the event that came with the Gala Showcase, and also because I've noticed myself getting lazy with the character analysis. Anyway, let's get straight to it. Our first unit is the 5-star Shadow Dagger Delphi, the tutelary successor. His skill 1, Ruination Cage, deals damage to a target and nearby enemies, creating a debuff zone that lasts for 10 seconds, reducing the defense of enemies inside by 15%. This skill charges over time, but can be further filled by attacking enemies. Delphi's second skill is Corrosive Cage, summoning Heaven's Cage and then dealing damage to a target and nearby enemies. It also inflicts poison and a 15% strength debuff on light attuned enemies for 15 seconds. It also deals bonus damage relative to the damage taken while Heaven's Cage is active. Corrosive Cage also charges over time and is also further filled by attacking enemies. Being a dagger unit, Delphi has the Critical Rate Co-ability. In terms of other abilities, Delphi's first ability is Poisonous Cage, which lowers Delphi's strength by 60% during quests. Delphi's Ruination Cage also grants him a Force Strike modifier, inflicting poison on the next Force Strike. This effect does not stack. Delphi also has full Paralysis Resist. His third ability, Flurry Poison Edge, increases his chances of inflicting poison by 60% when his combo count is 15 or higher. Anyhow, his first ability, Poisonous Cage, actually seems kind of odd at first glance. The 60% strength debuff during quests only is so that his might numbers in the team setup screen are consistent, and Delphi doesn't end up being a weird hindrance to unlocking quests if he's one of your first Shadow Adventurers. Data miners also determine that Delphi has a much higher poison damage modifier compared to other adventurers, meaning that the majority of his damage will come from the status affliction. Anyway, his skill 1, Ruination Cage. From the showcase video it seems to charge itself over about 10 seconds. With a charge time that short, attacking will probably do very little to actually make the skill come up sooner. This is because the actual skill point costs of these self-charging abilities are extremely high, and it just artificially grants you skill points towards that skill over time. The debuff zone also reminds me quite a lot of Wedding Alazan's skill 2, and I think this could make Delphi quite good against less mobile enemies, such as the Fafnir in Mercurial Gauntlet. Delphi's second skill, Corrosive Cage, it seems to charge itself over about 15 seconds, also leaving very little margin to charge it faster with standard attacks. It was also specified that the strength debuff it inflicts doesn't stack, meaning that strategies revolving around multiple Delphis are slightly less viable. However, a 15% strength debuff might still be quite helpful, especially with the current raid events of mega difficulty if you're struggling to keep your adventurers alive. Anyway, a further side note, I'm not sure if this skill has anti-synergy with Delphi's Flurry Poison Edge ability. It could be pretty bad if the time delay after activating the ability might make you lose combos. Delphi's ideal build, according to the Blue simulations, is to use Marishiten along with Resounding Rendition and Sister's Day Out. This is because his poison damage will actually scale with strength instead of skill damage. The additional Force Strike damage also supposedly modifies the damage dealt by his poison from his Force Strike abilities. Delphi seems to have a hit and run playstyle overall due to less benefit from sitting on an enemy and wailing on them with his standard attacks, but overall the highest DPS will still come from an aggressive playstyle. Anyway, onwards to the second unit added with this showcase, the 5-star Shadow 1, Cassandra, the Sorrowful Royal Magician. Her skill 1, Umbral Assault, deals damage to enemies directly ahead and increases her maximum hit points by 5% for the remainder of this quest. Once the limit is reached, a HP recovery effect is granted instead. Similar to Berserker, I think this limit is 3 times? Anyway, Cassandra's second skill is Violet Uproar, which summons the Twilight Wreath, then dealing damage to a target and nearby enemies. She also deals bonus damage relative to damage taken while Twilight Wreath is active, so it's another counter ability. Being a wand unit, Cassandra has the Skill Damage Co-ability. Cassandra's other abilities are 100% skill prep when maxed out, 100% paralysis resist, and her third ability is Resilient Offense. This increases Cassandra's strength by 10% when her hit points drop to 30%. This effect also stacks up to 3 times per quest. Cassandra's ability set and her counter skill point her towards a rather seemingly straightforward playstyle. You let your hit points drop low, you raise your hit points again by healing yourself above the 30% threshold, and then repeat the cycle. However, let's apply this game plan to, say, the current Omega Raid difficulty. You might be able to do it with some smart planning, but it also means that you'd have to forego iframing some attacks, risking your AI teammates. Overall, this playstyle seems like you really have to try hard to get more than one strength buff from her resilient offensive ability. At least her first skill is straightforward, granting a small health buff. It could be quite beneficial to use the 5T3 Shadow Wand, crafted with sands, with healing ability, allowing you to control your own health levels to a greater extent. According to simulations, Cassandra wants to be using Resounding Rendition and Beautiful Nothingness. This suggests a print such as Jewels of the Sun won't help her to reach any skill haste breakpoints. Anyway, onwards to the third unit added with this showcase, we have the 4-star Shadow Lance Patia, the Spirited Swallow. Her skill 1, Sparrow's Guard, increases the entire team's defense by 25% for 15 seconds. Her second skill, Swift Skewer, deals damage to a target and nearby enemies, inflicting bleed. Being a lance unit, Patia has the hit point boost ability. Her first ability is the buff time plus 25%. She has full paralysis resist when maxed out, and also primed devastation plus 5%. This increases the critical rate of the adventure you're controlling by 5% for 5 seconds whenever Patia's skill 1 becomes available. This ability has a 15-second cooldown. Overall, it seems like Patia doesn't seem to be a huge DPS powerhouse by herself. Her base strength is quite low, but her defense buff on her skill 1 could lend itself well to some double buff shenanigans. Simulations also suggest that she uses Valiant Crown and First Rate Hospitality, suggesting that self-activating strength double buffs from her skill 1 are her best asset. This also suggests that similar double buff abuse on the rest of your teammates could be quite rewarding, but this is outside the scope of simulations, and also a really big Wyrmprint investment for a single strategy. Since it deviates so far from the standard Resounding Rendition and Jewels of the Sun meta. Anyway, a final note for these 3 full Paralysis Resist units. Now, Paralysis Resist points them towards High Jupiter, but his tendency to straight up kill you with the debuff stacks means that you'll have to take very calculated hits with your counter skills. In Patia's case, you actually want to minimize how often you make use of the defense buff. Not in the sense that you don't want to use it, but ideal play means you don't want to be hit in the first place, unless you're with Delphi and or Cassandra. This probably means we might be seeing some quite odd team compositions incoming. Anyway, onwards with the event unit, we have the 4-star Welfare Shadow Sword Audric, the Atoning King. His skill 1 is Exaltation Terminus, dealing damage to enemies ahead and also, at level 3, raising the dragon gauge by 10%. His second skill is Circlet Denouement, dealing damage to enemies ahead. I had to look up the pronunciation of that, apparently it's French. Anyway, being a sword unit, Audric has the Dragon Haste ability. His other abilities are Shapeshift Prep plus 10%, up to 50% paralysis resist, and Cursed Blood, increasing Dragon Form critical rate by about 30%. About 30%? Exactly 30%. But as a trade-off, it decreases your defense in Dragon Form by 30%. Overall, it means that Audric is a shadow unit revolving around utilizing Dragon Form. While simulations suggest Shining Overlord and Beautiful Nothingness, the simulations don't fully take Dragon Form into account. Prints such as Bridal Queen or the new print from the Showcase update could prove to be an interesting alternative playstyle introduced with his Cursed Blood ability. Also note, his Dragon Prep ability can stack with Wyrmprints, and it also takes effect as a helper. Full Dragon Prep teams utilizing Audric can reach 70% Dragon Gauge in single player, and also 50% in multiplayer with a single Audric. This enables some unusual strategies such as tanking all the high Dragon Child Blasts with Dragon Form. Moving onwards, we have the 5-star Shadow Dragon added with the showcase, Chthonius, the Devoted Dragon. His skill is Immortal Spirit, which deals damage to a target and inflicts poison. Chthonius' ability grants 45 to 55% at maximum bind strength, and also increases your strength by 10% upon each shapeshift, which stacks up to 2 times. It's interesting that the base ability starts at 45% strength rather than the 40% most 5-star strength dragons have. However, at maximum unbind, Chthonius grants 55% instead of 60% strength. However, the strength boost climbs over that of other strength dragons again after one transformation. However, Shadow's only other strength dragon is Marishaten, who's limited. Overall, Chthonius is a pretty solid dragon, but most adventurers will still prefer the skill damage boost of Shinobi. The 4-star Welfare Shadow Dragon added with the Fractured Futures event is Parallel Zodiark, the Aberrant Shadow. Parallel Zodiark's skill is Malevolent Venom, dealing damage to enemies ahead. Strangely enough, it doesn't inflict poison. At maximum unbind, Parallel Zodiark's ability grants 20% strength and plus 40% to the critical damage modifier. Note, this is not 1.4 times damage on critical hits, just in addition to the existing base modifier of 170% damage on critical hits. Parallel Zodiark could be an interesting dragon for critical hit focused adventurers / setups overall, but this trades the consistency of Juggernaut for a lot of luck. You're probably better off using Juggernaut if you have him, but Parallel Zodiark would still probably be quite usable for newer players. Anyway, as always, I'll go over the Wyrmprints added with the showcase, even though they're not part of the drop system anymore. The 5-star print added with this update was Endless Waltz, granting you 15% strength when your hit points are full, and also 30% gauge accelerator. This could be a pretty crazy print for 4-strike oriented sword adventurers. I'd definitely put this on the Xander vs Void Agni. However, for other cases you're probably better off using Seaside Princess or Evening of Luxury. The second 5-star print added with this showcase is an Ancient Oath, granting you plus 18% damage while in dragon form, and also Dragon's Claws, which gives you a slowly stacking strength buff over 3 shapeshifts, capping at 30%. So this is definitely a print aimed at dragon form oriented adventurers. This would be Mim and Audric, with Uden, Garly Uden and Xanfrid benefiting to a slightly lesser extent, since they don't have skills that charge the dragon gauge. This print is probably pretty good for longer fights. If we were to see the Fire Emblem wave defense style of event again, this would be a perfect fit. So the 4-star print added with this showcase is Odd Sparrows, granting you healing double buff and strength double buff. The healing double buff should heal you for about 15, maybe 18% of your hit points over 20 seconds, and the strength double buff is 8% for 15 seconds. Featuring Patia, this print features 2 double buff abilities. This could pair well with Valiant Crown, possibly. Double buff prints are pretty hard to evaluate, and I don't really feel like a conditional short duration strength buff can really compete with the more permanent buffs of other prints, unless you build a full team around double buffs. Wind, for example, could use a team with Galaranzel, Lowen, Aileen. The Fire roster has Ramona, Gala Cerise, Sanoa, Naveed, Emma. Okay, so it seems like Fire teams might make the most use out of these strategies. It's pretty hard to tell without experimenting, and it's also pretty expensive since you'd have to build a full set of, double buff utilizing prints, because it just varies so much from the standard. Anyway, we also had some prints added with the event. The 5-star print from the event is United by One Vision, granting you plus 13% strength when your hit points are above 70%, and also United Haste. United Haste grants you plus skill haste depending on the number of surviving team members. So this is a slightly better Jewels of the Sun, but conditionally, since Jewels of the Sun grants you 10% strength. The condition is that all of your team members must remain alive, with United Haste capping at 8% skill haste with 3 other living allies. Losing one ally might cause you to lose a skill haste breakpoint, rendering it useless. This suggests the print could be an improvement over Jewels of the Sun in content such as Mercurial Gauntlet or easier content, or so stuff that's not Omega difficulty raids and high dragon trials. Some people have taken to keeping the 5 copies from the raid events separate so that they can use keys to unbind the prints, but I happened upon that idea too late. Oh well, I still have plenty of Jewels prints. The 4-star print added with the event is the Bewitching Magician, with 10% light resist and 8% healing potency. So it's a fairly unexciting combination of abilities, but who knows? Maybe someone wants to bring Edward to High Jupiter. Other content that's also rate up on this showcase is the 4-star Shadow Bow Norwyn and the 4-star Shadow Dragon Juggernaut. Anyway, we finally reached the end of the video. In other news, I happen to have a copy of the Dragalia Lost art book still in its sealed bubble packaging from Japan. Do people want to see a video of me opening the package and flipping through the book? I also have a pre-order of the first print limited edition of the Darker Dragalia Lost Anniversary album. I could do a video of that too. Let me know what you'd like to see in the comments. Anyway, thank you very much for watching through to the end of this longer no fluff analysis video. I hope to see you guys next time. Good luck in your upcoming polls.